350,000 black women lost their job in the first 6 months of this year. But they talk about, oh, the unemployment rate ticked up a little, but it doubled, almost doubled for black people. What DEI was about black women who'd achieved a certain amount being taken from their jobs at one time. DEI has never done to America what GCI did. GCI is greedy, corrupt, incompetent white men. They talk about these things in an abstract concept, and if you look at the fact that black women are the most educated segment of our society, white men are the most uneducated. This was bound to happen. And the fact that there were a lot of black men and Latin men who helped this happen is something it's hard for me to reconcile.
To the economy now, where staggering numbers have been released surrounding black women in the labor force. A new report shows more than 300,000 black women have left the workforce in just the last several months. That's according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Joining me now is gender economist Katika Roy to break this all down and why they're leaving. Katika, thank you so much for being with us. You recently wrote an article where you say that this isn't happening by accident. Why do you think it is happening?
This is happening because of cuts to public sector positions. So if you look at the federal labor force, black women make up just over 12% of the federal labor force. It's about double their representation in the labor force overall. And when you have targeted cuts up to 50% in organizations such as the Department of Education and HHS, you're not just trimming the fat, you're actually cutting the economic backbone for black women.
Wow. And so what are some of the spillover effects from all of this?
Well, one of the things that we know is that there is a connection between women's labor force participation and GDP. So just black women's labor force participation has dropped by just over 2% in the last 3 months. And that has sucked over $37 billion out of US GDP. So this is the economic cost of gender policy ignorance.
This is really fascinating because do you think that most people are unaware of the actual impacts of things like this?
Absolutely. So when we often think about women's issues or black women's issues, we think of it as an over there problem. It's not. It's an everybody problem. When our economy grows, that has more jobs and more income for everyone. So we know, for instance, overall, that for every 1 percentage point that women leave the labor force, there's a $146 billion hit to GDP.
Oh my gosh. And so we've talked about the consequences, but is there an upside to all of this? Are we seeing women pivoting to entrepreneurship as they're leaving the workforce? What then are they doing?
You know, that's a great question. And the truth is, we don't know where all of the 300,000 black women that have actually been pushed out of the labor force have gone. We know that some of them have gone into entrepreneurship, which is not only because of luxury, but it's actually because of survival. And this is really a testament to their resilience, but it also shows the rigidity in our traditional employment systems.
Are there any other groups that we are seeing largely impacted in this way in the labor workforce?
Not to this extent. So I track all of the data, as you can imagine, month over month by gender and race and ethnicity. And I started to see this trend about 3 months ago with this really precipitous drop in black women out of the labor force. And this is a huge hit. And historically, just to give you a sense of the historical context, this is the first time in years that black women's labor force participation has fallen below Latinas' labor force participation.
If you want to know the direction of the jobs market, pay attention to the black unemployment numbers. That's not my guidance. That's the guidance from economists and experts who know much more about this than I. But let me explain. Right now, the U.S. unemployment rate is at 4.3%. We just learned that very few jobs were added in August, about 22,000. That's not good. If you were to describe this via text, you send a red alarm emoji. Now, for black workers, the data is worse. For now, another month, the unemployment rate is going up. It's now 7.5%. That's the highest it's been since October of 2021. And it's a number we've been watching ever since it was 6.8% in June. It's 2 alarm emojis. You dig even deeper, and you'll find that black women are disproportionately struggling right now. The jobless rate for black women is at 6.7%. The last time it was that high, September of 2021, back during the pandemic. Add one more red alarm emoji. Why is this happening? Economists have told us that when we see the unemployment rate going up for black people, it's a sign that it could soon go up for all people. And as our CNN business team explains, black workers are disproportionately employed in frontline and lower wage industries as well as the government workforce. So what comes for black people first often comes for everyone. And you know, those good government jobs have been a tool for black people to build stable livelihoods, especially for black women. But the federal workforce has been a target of this administration, along with immigrants and diversity initiatives.
We are in uncharted waters. Since April, more than 350,000 black workers have been cut, with black women carrying the heaviest blow. Their unemployment rate has shot up faster than any other group, not because of a global pandemic or an external crisis, but because of choices being made right here at home. Federal agencies, where black women hold a disproportionate share of jobs, are downsizing. Sectors like education support, healthcare assistance, retail, and hospitality, industries that rely heavily on black female labor, are tightening budgets and cutting staff. Add to that weaker safety nets, lower household wealth, and discrimination that slows re-entry into the workforce, and you get a perfect storm that pushes black women out first and hardest. This isn't a passing bump in the road. It's a flashing siren warning of instability building at the heart of the economy. The pattern is unmistakable. Every economic downturn in America has begun the same way. Black workers, especially black women, feel the shockwaves before anyone else. Job losses in these communities mean shrinking household income, falling consumer demand, and growing strain on families already stretched thin. That cascade doesn't stop at neighborhood boundaries. It reaches the suburbs, corporate offices, and middle-class households. Rising black unemployment in a period without a national crisis is not a niche statistic. It's a signal that the system itself is faltering. When the most vulnerable workers are falling through the cracks in such numbers, it tells us one thing: the cracks are widening for everyone. To dismiss this surge is to pretend the economy is stable, when in truth, the foundations are beginning to give way.
I'd be wrong to say that this country is committed to doing everything in its power to prevent black women from generating wealth. In just 3 months, nearly 300,000 black women left the U.S. labor force, and more than 518,000 black women still haven't returned to the labor force since the pandemic began, leaving our real unemployment rate just above 10%. The article lists many causes that I'm not going to go into details for all of them, but obviously the federal cuts. It also talks about the impact of the Big Beautiful Bill and student loans, and it talks about all of the DEI cuts. For decades, the public sector has served as a lifeline for black women shut out of opportunity elsewhere in the economy. Black women make up over 12% of the federal workforce, almost double our share of the labor force overall. The roles not only offer pensions and benefits, but more equitable pay compared to the private sector. DEI job postings dropped by 43% between August 2022 and July 2024, as well as companies scaling back their mentorship programs, their inclusive hiring, and deprioritizing equity benchmarks. I really want to emphasize the importance of retention, because we always focus on hiring, but oftentimes these companies hire black women and truly leave us for dead and do not give us the resources to be able to successfully navigate and successfully climb up the ladder within these companies. Even when black women are able to break into these spaces, to break into these companies, the pipeline to highly compensated executive roles sheds us at every single step. This is black women right here. Black women are among the most vulnerable to automation, with 21% working in jobs highly exposed to AI-driven distribution. Yet we hold just 3% of computing-related jobs. This is not just a mismatch. It's a structural exclusion from both the current economy and the next one. Black women tend to work in supportive roles, and you can see from this diagram that supportive roles have the highest risk of automation and also the lowest future job growth. And all of this is coming at a time where companies are eager to cut their workforces. There's a new mindset on how best to run a company. Companies are focusing on commanding millions of dollars in revenue with only a handful of employees. Many executives see large workforces as an impediment and not an asset. We're seeing this throughout industries. Companies are functioning with historically low number of employees. More than 51% of Black households with children are led by breadwinner mothers, many of whom are the sole source of income in their homes. When these women are pushed out of the workforce, entire families lose their economic foothold, threatening housing stability, consumer spending, and educational outcomes for children. These are not isolated setbacks, they are systemic losses. And this is a compounding problem, okay? Without these public sector jobs that come with pensions, without these private sector jobs that allow you the opportunity to tax advantage retirement accounts, we're not going to have people who are able to save for retirement. There already is a wealth gap within retirement itself. I made an entire video on it. And the people who have managed to save are having to reach into that savings in order to stay afloat. Last year, a record 4.8% of workers in 401k plans took a hardship distribution for financial emergencies, up from a pre-pandemic average of about 2%. Nearly 1/3 of people who leave jobs annually liquidate their 401ks, paying taxes and often penalties rather than keeping the money in retirement accounts. The article and the recent unemployment numbers are new, but this conversation is not new. We know that all of these things together impact and create the racial wealth gap. If you're interested, I have this linked on my page, The Economic Impact of Closing the Racial Wealth Gap, which is a 2019 study from McKinsey. The racial wealth gap is composed of so many systemic issues that there is not one solution or one answer to the problem. I always talk about how this has to be multifaceted because there are so many things that led to the creation of the racial wealth gap.
If Black Americans fall, especially Black women, the damage does not stop at their households. It cuts deep into the very core of the economy, reaching the upper middle class. Black women are central to the workforce in healthcare support, education, childcare, government services, and retail. When their jobs disappear, families lose income, local businesses lose customers, and tax revenues shrink. Schools, clinics, and community services struggle to operate, and property values in those neighborhoods decline. That loss of stability ripples outward. The businesses that depend on their labor and spending, from small shops to large corporations, take financial hits. Upper middle class professionals feel it when clients dry up, bonuses shrink, and company growth stalls. What looks like a localized crisis is in reality the foundation shifting beneath everyone's feet. Systemic racism makes this collapse sharper and more contagious. Black women are often locked out of promotions, credit, and secure jobs that cushion economic shocks. When cuts hit them, there is no buffer, so the decline spreads faster. Entire industries lose not only workers but customers. Corporate profits fall, investment slows, and upper middle class households see the impact in their stock portfolios, their property values, and their children's schools. What begins as targeted layoffs turns into shrinking retirement accounts, rising living costs, and weaker job security higher up the ladder. Ignoring the suffering of Black women workers is short-sighted because the economy is not separate systems, it's one chain. Break the first link and every link above it feels the pull.
300,000 Black women have been laid off in the last 90 days just in 2025. This conversation we're about to have is very urgent and it needs to be talked about. I read an article from wbcollective.org that stated that Black women typically go into healthcare, government, and education, which have been considered very safe job sectors for us. Under the new administration and all these budget cuts, we have been absolutely affected the most. I don't think this is the time for us to be selling Black women courses or telling them to go back to school because a lot of them have families to take care of and they need support right now. So we need to be looking at ways that we can support all these women that have been laid off. If you are at a job and you're willing to refer a woman, please do so. If you are willing to help funding with them to get their business off of the ground, please do so. My name is Kina. I'm the co-founder of a tech organization. I have also been pushed out of corporate America at one point and decided to branch out on my own here in Chicago. So if you'd like to follow along for that journey, you can find me at NUCORD, and we create community for adults and students looking to break into tech. See you later.
300,000 Black women are not leaving the workforce. I just hope that everybody is on the same page about that. They're not leaving the workforce. 300,000 women are being fired, laid off, restructured. That's what's happening. Don't fall for the rhetoric. Just because somebody's given a severance package, an exit package, or whatever it is, still firing you. One of the things that's so harmful about this narrative is it further insinuates this strong Black women narrative that honestly needs to just die. It needs to die. When you frame all of these women being fired as them leaving the workforce, right, and starting their businesses or whatever, they're not starting their businesses because they want to. They're starting their businesses because they don't have a choice. 300,000 Black women do not have a quiet coalition in group chats back in a Discord, or if they do, please let me in. But they don't. They're not all deciding all at once, okay, we're all going to quit now and we're all going to just start our own ventures and we're all going to go be like most Black women I know who have started their own businesses have done so because of necessity, not necessarily even always because they've been fired or laid off, but a lot of times because they recognize that they're not going to be treated as well as they could have been treated if they just treat themselves well by running their own business. So I want you to look at these articles and these headlines with a jaundiced eye, because 300,000 Black women are not leaving. They're not just going, oh, you know what? Who needs a check? Who needs a 9-to-5 in this economy? Like, we need to start getting in the habit of calling things what they are. Like, when your company tells you that you've been restructured, they're laying you off. That's what's happening right now. I want to use this as a time to stop us and say what it is. Because now a lot of companies who already had audacity, let's be very clear, no matter what administration it is, companies are going to have audacity. Now they have a lot more audacity, and so to cover themselves so they don't get sued and say what it really is, and a lot of companies are reframing this so that they can hide their racism behind severance packages.
Okay, but no, hold on. I'm so thankful that we are really on this topic of Black women losing their jobs, because can we talk about how they fired us? Because God damn it, I worked a full day, logged out, got a phone call, 4:00. You fired. Turn the equipment in immediately. Huh? If you don't turn the equipment in, you getting legal charges for theft. Huh? And I ain't even got paid. So what the fuck did we do to America? My other sisters, what did we do? Tried to get an explanation. They felt like they didn't owe me no explanation. Cool. Filled out the unemployment shit. They ain't even responded back to that. I'm like, well, fuck. All right.
Today I saw not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 Black creators, women, say they got laid off from their job today. This comes after the news that 300,000 Black women have been laid off so far in 2025. I scrolled some more on my timeline. I seen like 4 videos of Black women saying they have been applying to jobs since January of this year. It is now August and they have yet to receive a call back. I got 2 homegirls right now that do DoorDash and Uber Eats for a living. And my city just made it illegal to be homeless on the streets. This economy, this job market, this administration can go straight to hell. If you have a job, it don't matter if you don't like it. Do not quit, because these people is not hiring. A few years ago, Indeed used to be that girl. It used to be so easy to get a job. Now it's like ghost positions. They're just pretending to hire you. Then you gotta fill out an assessment, upload your resume, your cover letter, do an interview, then do another interview just to not get hired. I find all my jobs on a Facebook group called Amber, Your Work From Home Homegirl. I posted it before, but I'm gonna post it again. I don't think anything is gonna change, y'all, until we strike. I feel like we need to boycott McDonald's, Amazon, don't pay rent, something. We can't just lay down and take it.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion policies were never about handouts. They were about building stability across the economy by pulling marginalized groups into the fold. When Black women and other underrepresented workers gained access to fairer hiring, promotions, and training, they weren't the only ones who benefited. Companies expanded their talent pools, reducing turnover costs and increasing productivity. More households with steady paychecks meant stronger consumer demand, healthier tax bases, and more resilient communities. because stronger local economies meant better funded schools, safer neighborhoods, higher property values, and thriving businesses. DEI was an investment in broad-based prosperity, not charity. The dismantling of DEI cuts that foundation out from under the system. Without those protections, marginalized groups lose ground first. Fewer promotions, more layoffs, less access to opportunity, and that loss spreads. Businesses become less innovative and less competitive. Public institutions lose diversity that improves decision-making, and entire sectors stagnate. The upper middle class feels the shock in reduced economic growth, weaker job markets, and declining retirement accounts tied to underperforming companies. Stripping DEI is not a neutral act. It concentrates power and opportunity at the very top, leaving everyone else, from Black women at the front lines to professionals in boardrooms, more vulnerable to the fallout of inequality. By cutting DEI, the system doesn't just turn its back on people of color, it undercuts the very stability that the upper middle class depends on.
These are 3 things I've learned since being let go from my job. Number 1, there is no time like free time. Waking up every day, kind of looking around and being like, what do I want to do today? I really cannot explain the freedom in that feeling. There's truly no better feeling. Knowing that you have full autonomy over your day and you can just do whatever you want. You are told what to do with your time and where to be the second you start schooling, like first grade, and having this freedom over my time and what I want to do with it, priceless. Number 2, free time is also terrifying. With great power comes great responsibility. And knowing how to structure my day so I'm not wasting it has definitely been a challenge, especially as somebody who is neurodivergent. My ADHD be putting the pause on me sometimes, and I get stuck in this like analysis paralysis where I have so many things to do, I don't know where to start, so I don't start anywhere. Yeah, that has been happening quite frequently. I always had a feeling, but it was never proven. So I'm trying not to beat myself up about that. And number 3, any career that I obtain moving forward will be a stepping stone to one day working for myself. There is no feeling like not having a boss to answer to, coworkers to perform for, or a mask to wear in an office as a Black woman. I am rapidly gaining the self-confidence to just be how I am, and being in a corporate space since 2015, since I was 23 years old, you learn to mask a lot of who you are, especially as a Black woman, as a survival skill to make it in these office environments. And you deal with so many microaggressions, and you just learn the ins and outs of being in those spaces and not being in those spaces. I mean, it's a freedom that I don't think I've really ever truly known or anticipated. So yeah, I'm going to continue to sip my coffee on my couch, and then I'm going to decide what I want to do with my day. The curse of losing my job also resulted in the blessing of time being given back to me, and I don't think I could be more grateful for that.